Hi, everyone, and welcome to another conversation with an industry leader in the automation space. Today, we have Nico Bitzer, who is the CEO and founder at Bots and People. Welcome, Nico.
Hello, it's great for having that interview. I'm super looking forward to it.
Thank you, Nico. Now, let me kind of explain a little bit about Bots and People, and maybe you can add to this. So on your website, Bots and People, your vision is a world with meaningful work for everyone. And your team asks people to join the biggest growth curve in their career so far. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and also specifically how you can help enterprises with their automation strategies?
Yeah. So let's start at the challenge that enterprises have nowadays. So we have on the one side a demographic change. So more and more people, the workforce is getting older, and more younger people are joining the enterprises, and they don't want to do repetitive tasks anymore. And the second thing is we also have not enough qualified people to keep our standard. And that's why automation is the logical answer to solve that bottleneck. And if you now look at it, then most of the people that are responsible for scaling the automation initiatives within companies, they have basically three challenges. The first challenge is to create awareness, to show the capabilities of automation to the whole workforce. The second one is to create use cases, good use cases that can thrive a return on invest. And the second thing is, even if you have a lot of use cases, if you have the awareness, somebody needs to implement use cases. And there we have a huge bottleneck in IT skills. So, for example, only 0.3% of the world population can code. So we need this low code automation topic to bridge that gap. And that's why also the second bottleneck is to build a democratized way of implementing automation solutions with citizen development.
I mean, why do you think it's important, Nico, for an enterprise to build its skills and the people to build their skills and capabilities around automation internally? Why do you think that's important?
Yeah. So as an enterprise, you have several possibilities to solve this bottleneck. So you can either hire a consultancy, of course, that will also do the job. You can implement some use cases. You can also find automation potentials. But this has a huge downside. So I'm not saying that hiring consultancy is bad at all, especially in the beginning, it's necessary. But at some point, you always tell people what they need to do. So here is the automation, you're now using it without the person, the process owner, understanding what is the solution about, what is automation, and what am I working on here. So that's why it's super important to strive this understanding of automation from within the company and also build the capabilities while the automation solutions are built as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, you work with enterprises, right, around the world, a lot in that region and in Germany as well. What do you think have been the kind of biggest challenges as an automation training provider for enterprises? Like what have you kind of come across recently from enterprises in terms of their bottlenecks or things that they want to learn most about this year within an enterprise?
Yeah. So recently this was a process automation leader, and he told me that hiring a process mining expert, and this was in the Eastern Europe region, cost at least 10,000 euro. So if you not like the salary of the person, that's of course much higher, but just to like getting the job posting out, eventually maybe hiring a headhunting agency and those kind of things, because it's very rare skills to find someone that knows about process mining. And then it's a simple, like the bottleneck was, how can I find faster those people that can help me scale this process mining initiative? And how can I get rid of the super high costs in hiring and also this high costs of always engaging a consultancy if I have a nitty-gritty problem in my process mining setup? And that's one thing you can solve with internal upskilling. You can go to internal experts that have, for example, in one process, like in accounting, a job, and this job is threatened by automation, or this, let's say this role is threatened by automation, and then you can ask around if someone is interested in building also skills in process mining, and that would be much cheaper to build the capabilities internally and more sustainable.
So, I mean, training automation is not just for intelligent automation leaders, RPA leaders. What other functions are important, and maybe have you trained in enterprises, and what difference has that made to the enterprise and to the collaboration that they have?
Yeah, so that's completely different. As you mentioned, of course, there is the automation experts that working in the center of excellence. They need to have the skills. They need to be certified in many tools like UiPath, like Microsoft Power Platform, like Celonis, and many others, or Blue Prism, or whatever the company has implemented. But then there is also, as mentioned in the beginning, the citizen developers. What is a citizen developer? Several definitions out there. For me, a citizen developer is someone who helps with developing technical solutions without code that is not in the IT department. So those kind of people sitting in the accounting department, sitting in the procurement department, in the HR department, helping to develop the use cases. And it needs always this top-down support also from their leaders to have time to do that. And then there's, of course, all people in the organization that need to find and hand in use cases for automation. And this can be everyone in an organization.
Now, the role of AI, I mean, it's coming to the fore of everyone's minds, not just automation leaders. What role do you think AI plays this year in RPA strategy?
Mm-hmm. So it's starting to play a really, really big role, because all that automation use cases that were super difficult before are now, with the new large language models out in the market, quite easy, I would say. Let me mention an example. So we were in touch with a media company, and they had a use case where people email them what they want to publish. So that can be everything. That can be just some news about their company, but that can be also, like for local newspapers, some notes of a person. So it can be everything. And they were searching for a solution that can drag the information out of that email and then forward it to the adequate department to then care about the announcement in the right media. And this still last year, we would say this is a really, really complex case. And you would rather need to tell your customers to send in those requests via a form that you can have the structured data. But with the advancement of AI, now it's possible to feed an automation system with this unstructured data as well, because you have the AI in between to put it in the right direction, the information flow.
Now, Nico, you're speaking at our 7th Intelligent Automation and Artificial Intelligence Conference, which is on the 19th to the 21st of June in Hanover, in Germany. What's important for you about being at this event, moderating one of our main panel discussions around ChatGPT? What's important about being involved in this event?
Yeah, so I go back to our vision you mentioned in the beginning, to create meaningful work for everyone and also to make people's jobs easier through automation. And we can't do it alone. So it needs to be a community around it. We need to build that, and we can only build that together with other vendors that offer software in the field, with other vendors that offer consulting in the field, but also with the companies themselves and with the decision maker, to inspire among each other and to make that journey to create that meaningful work for everyone really, really huge.
And kind of building on that, the panel discussion that you're moderating, titled "How ChatGPT is Disrupting and Affecting the Automation Universe: Use Cases, Value, Disruption." What have you seen in Bots and People, for example, in terms of use cases for ChatGPT? I mean, is it rare? Are there now a lot more emerging use cases, or is it kind of still maybe a distant pipe dream for a lot of enterprises, and it's a year or two away?
Yeah, I would say I would love to say the first one and say I have seen now tons of use cases already, but that's not the case. At least the big enterprises we are working at are more struggling at the moment with compliance and how to enable people to start using it. So what I've seen is many companies put their heads around it and think about how they could use ChatGPT in their company. Because let's be honest, people are using it anyways. If not with their company mail address, you can just use your private mail address and then you can get this social media posting written faster than before. So people using it. And I think what is happening this year is that companies need to think about, and we all need to think about together in which frame this can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a demo yesterday with a speaker that's speaking at our intelligent automation event from Cyclum and one of our sponsors. And he showed basically ChatGPT being implemented in an enterprise and learning the enterprise's information internally. And then on Microsoft Teams, speaking to a bot, which was a person, and that was a business advisor, and asking questions around HR processes, for example, in that organization, and getting like really meaningful answers. And it was amazing. It was like there was a staff member there. And I think the more we kind of see this in action and hear the stories and hear what you're learning from organizations and actually involving enterprises in learning strategies, that it's going to speed up this whole thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how can automation leaders and enterprises learn more about shifting to more meaningful work in their existing roles? Don't necessarily have to leave their roles, but how can they shift to more meaningful work? I mean, is there any specific content that they might be able to follow with bots and people?
Yeah. So with bots and people, definitely. So you can look at, for example, our podcast where we have great interviews. The next one is coming out next week with Sanofi. I think they are also as speakers at the event in
Yes, they
Hanover.
are.
Yeah, and they put out a super interesting use case about process mining with predictive analytics. It's just stunning what they built there. So you can, of course, follow that, but there's also a lot of nice influencers, I would say, in the automation space. You should follow on LinkedIn, and that's always good. And then, last but not least, also visiting events like the Intelligent AI event in Hanover, because connecting personally is still, again, I would also say after the COVID times, a whole new level than just doing it online and digitally.
Thanks, Nico. I think just my final question, because no, I'm very aligned with your organization's purpose of shifting everyone to meaningful work, right? Where do you see bots and people in the future? What do you see? How do you see this vision materializing?
Yeah.
Where do you want to be in the next few years?
Yeah. So we see ourselves as a strategic partner for enterprises when it comes to automation enablement. And I say enablement because that's beyond learning. It also includes how can we really, really solve these bottlenecks I mentioned in the beginning of creating awareness, finding use cases, and then implementing it. And there's a lot still to do and a lot still to develop.
Yeah. Nico, any final words for enterprises thinking about attending your session in the 7th Intelligent Automation and AI conference in Hanover? What would you say to them?
So I think if you want to stay up to date, then join in Hanover. There will be some inspiring thoughts and you shouldn't miss it. I'm very convinced.
Awesome. Nico, thank you so much for an enjoyable conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.